Every expansion team hopes they can have the success that Louisville City has seen in their history. Back-to-back USL Cup champions playing host to the USL Championship. Game of the week, Memphis. It's just game number 9 in their expansion season, and they come to Slugger Field on Kentucky Derby Festival night. Hi, folks. Mike Watts, Devin Kerr on hand for this one. Memphis has struggled of late. Louisville, with a win, could be back into the playoff picture. It's a team, Devin, that hasn't totally hit on all cylinders. Still, they're tinkering tactically. That'll even happen inside the game.
Especially because of injuries this year. And John Hackworth, we've got an opportunity to dive deeper into the brainchild that he is and what he's been able to do from a philosophical standpoint. Started off the year in this 4-2-3-1, but again, due to injuries to the likes of Luke Spencer, George Davis, and Del Piccolo, they've had to morph. Check out the movement that we've seen in the middle of the field. From the 4-2-3-1, you're going to get your holding midfielder in Sean Tosh. He's going to tuck back in to basically a 3-back system. They still get the outside backs very high. Jimenez, loving his position on the right, would like to be on the left, but he's done well for himself. Niall McCabe pinches in. The holding midfielders would drop back a bit more, and then up top, it allows Lucky Kassan on the right to play high in a 9-type role, and everything comes down to number 14, Abdou Jam, and what he's been able to do for them. This is a guy who stretches the field, gives you a vertical threat, but also a very technical player. The former Husky has made a home here in Louisville City, and it's great that he's been able to step in for injured Luke Spencer. Imagine, once they get all of their pieces back, what they are capable of.
I think he's got a big future for Louisville City, and he scored this equalizer against the Tampa Bay Rowdies, one of the best teams in the East this year, Now Lang Stadium a couple weeks ago. Meanwhile, Memphis trying to shut down this Abdou Jam-led attack, but in general, they're just trying to continue what we think is pretty good home form on the road, where statistically they've actually been better.
When you take a look at all the games that they've played at home, they have been better. Probably should have done better, at least a tie versus the Battery last week. And even the last game of the week versus ATL UTD2, they should have definitely gotten a win. They were not able to do so. What does Tim Mulqueen do? He goes out and gets Cam Lindley. This is a kid who has been phenomenal for the U23s under Jason Christ, and he thinks could be the future of U.S. soccer at the senior level. He thinks that also you need to play through him a bit more. Tim Mulqueen says we brought Cam in the middle. We pushed Adam Najim up top. They want to try and feed Najim more. He leads them in chances created. However, not in the 11 tonight. It is vital that Lindley creates a relationship with someone else starting up top.
So Louisville City is back home. They finally have a home win to show for this recent stretch after that 1-0 win against Ottawa. For Memphis, it's 5 winless. This would be the ultimate signature on their expansion season. Back after a flash. Kentucky Derby Festival Night, USL Championship game of the week for the twice Cup final winning Louisville City and the new side, Memphis 901 FC. With Devin Kerr, Mike Watson, look at the starting 11 for Louisville City FC. It's a group that makes no changes from their 1-0 win against Ottawa 10 days ago, as Lunt was questionable with an ankle injury, is able to go. Meanwhile, Tim Mulqueen, Devin, sending out an 11 that has to make changes. They played over the weekend.
You have to remember that this is a team that has not scored in 296 minutes. Their last goal was a few matches ago versus North Carolina FC, so need to find a way to get back on the score sheet. Can they run play through Cam Lindley, as Tim Mulqueen said, to Jochen Groff and Elliot Collier up top? Be a great triangle if they can get it going.
And Scott Levine makes his first start in goal for Memphis, trying to quell Niall McCabe in this Louisville offense that's seen flashes, but both sides under 10% conversion this year. Could the goals begin to flow tonight? Louisville and Memphis, first regular season meeting. There were 6 goals when they met in the preseason. Louisville 4-2 winner in that one. The USL Championship game of the week. Louisville in purple and black, Memphis white and blue. Taylor Pay going back to Ben Lunt. We weren't sure if he was going to play, Devin. An ankle injury just locked up on him in training. And John Hackworth, he didn't know what god he angered, but he felt like there was a dark cloud over him with all the injuries they've faced.
Thought it was interesting how he phrased it, because we had actually already asked him about Ben, and he got all the way through the interview and then doubled back on it and said, you know what, we're dealing with so many injuries. I just forgot about it, to be honest. Ankle locked up in training, non-contact. Said that it was a bit of a deformity. They got him treatment, able to get him healthy. Nice to see him out there tonight.
Pay for Tosh. Your point earlier in that holding midfield role in the absence of captain Paulo Del Piccolo. Drops in between the center backs. Field for the fullback turned wingback. In pursuit, Graff making his first start for Memphis. Jam couldn't turn on it. Pressure from M. Kosana. First spell of possession for Memphis. You think back to their last game against Charleston, and Devin, no one would have been surprised as M. Kosana chasing all the way to Levine on his first touch, Memphis uniform. No one would have been surprised if they came away with a win there, would they?
They should have.
Yeah.
Plenty of opportunities. They did well defensively, and that goes back to the structure that they're able to carry. Unfortunately, on the offensive side of things, just can't close out. Tim Mulqueen said, we're getting plenty of opportunities. We're just not finishing them off. And unfortunately, other teams have taken advantage of it. That's why they're only sitting on that one victory. A good one, mind you, on the road against Bethlehem Steel. But they have not been able to replicate that.
Rasmussen turns upfield. Graff is in his face. Williams. Morgan Hackworth providing the pressure. Popped out by Abdi Muhammad. Hackworth's teammate at Akron a year ago. John Hackworth, of course, the coach for Louisville City. His son making his 5th professional start tonight for Memphis. 2 in white in the middle of your screen. Williams. McCabe.
Even though Memphis turned in a 4-4-2 on their lineup card, you can already see some shifting from them. Morgan Hackworth tucking inside, playing more of a central role than initially expected. And Elliot Collier pushing out wide. I actually like Collier out wide much more than isolated up top, or even alongside a striking partner. It gives the ability to get the ball out in front, have a go at some of the outside backs in this league.
A chance here for Hackworth to get on the ball. Paco Craig did well to slide in, keep it for Louisville. McCabe pinged up field by Jimenez. Some room to run here. Jam wide by Williams. Run by Muckett. It is funny talking with John Hackworth about it. He was on radio in Louisville on 8:40 a.m. this morning talking about the fact that his wife should be wearing purple tonight, Tricia, rather than Memphis colors. Some attacking play here for Louisville breaks down as Wes Sharpie steps in. And it sounded like the phone calls this week and in weeks prior meant that is a really dangerous challenge from Paco Craig. And Graf goes to ground. Quite competitive, the text between the Hackworths. And Ismir Pekmik has his first decision to make.
The way that everything runs for this formation in Louisville, they probably are the most exposed on the left side due to their movement. Paco Craig coming in late. Jochen Graf getting whacked really hard. Dangerous, dangerous tackle in the early moments of this game. He's only going to get a yellow, and he's lucky, to be fair. Most referees aren't going to throw you out 5 minutes into a match, but we've seen players dismissed for much less than that. It was kind of funny talking to John Hackworth about that, how they're so competitive with everything.
Said ping pong, still competitive.
That's, you know, it's funny. There's certain sports soccer players think that they're amazing at. Ping pong and basketball. Those are the two. You go on road trips, and that seems to be the two sports that you always end up going at each other with.
Craig goes into the book, and Mark Birch is walking over, but it doesn't look like it'll be him taking the set piece, rather Cam Lindley behind the ball. On loan from Orlando. And Lindley, a good ball over the top, and Muckett didn't get over the top of it, bring it down.
One of the areas that John Hackworth says we need to be very careful at restarts, whether it be from a dead ball situation on a free kick, even quick throw-ins. They were giving up too many opportunities early on in the season. Gave up a couple goals off of it. Said that they've been better as of late, but even last game versus Ottawa, a couple restarts that got them in trouble, and they were lucky something didn't end up in the back of the net.
Hackworth is able to slide that through. Collier for Graf. He slides down. Williams going backward. Graf chasing at Paco Craig. Shuffled over to Rasmussen. Cleared by Muhammad. Out under the foot of Francis.
Memphis really allowing Cam Lindley to roam a bit free in the middle of the field. Ewan Grandison sitting alongside him as Louisville progresses up the field, tucking just a bit deeper. Cameron Lindley shifting side to side, and Hackworth just in front. Again, this system from Louisville City allows them to interchange so many different players in a boatload of positions, and it's quite difficult on the defensive side of things to track everybody. So Louisville going forward, John Hackworth says when we get it right, it's brilliant, and if not, it does leave us exposed.
Birch knocks it out. Tim Mulqueen, his first head coaching gig in the championship. And it's been an up and down start for them. One win on the road so far to show for what at times has been pretty valuable play. You could argue a couple breaks, and he did mention to us he could be much higher up in the standings. And hopefully for Memphis fans, eventually that'll all even out. This hit on a line, and Levine back into his net. This will go over the top.
Much like Louisville with the injuries, you need a bit of luck. That's something that we often don't talk about, but it has to be estimated as such a high value. McCabe having a go from distance. And so many teams, it's the woulda, coulda, shoulda. You know, well, this guy got hurt, or, you know, we couldn't get a result there. And most coaches will tell you that 8, 10, 12 game mark really gives you an idea of where the team is for the season. To be fair, it's also an area that maybe people don't necessarily take full advantage of when you take a look back on a season. You know, coming into 2018, 2017, both of those seasons, we saw runs by clubs at the end of the year that allowed them to make a push in the playoffs. That, to be honest, a couple of results here and there early on, they're sitting in a 5 seed, 4 seed, 3 seed, much higher, better matchup going into the playoffs.
Lucky Kosana thought he had been fouled, so he reached up and tried to rebound the basketball.
Told you, basketball skills,
yep.
Basketball and ping pong. It's the key to this game.
And Kosana giving chase. Anderson got up to meet it. Rasmussen comes out to muck it. Collier and Graff in front of him. Menez cuts him off. Feet of Lindley. Hackworth, who's continued to move about every position up front and on. Oh, he started on the right, I guess, in this front two. So he's been all over the place.
Started on the right, moved into the 10. Now he's back out on the left. It does showcase the playmaking ability of Lindley and being able to find those players in the movements. And some players might think, Morgan Hackworth, when you're getting moved around that much, they'll call you a squad player. And though versatility is a great thing, you'd like to be known as a specialist for one position. That's not necessarily the case for Morgan, because he has become such a vital piece to this team, playing in the holding midfielder role, playmaking, or outside. As a manager, it's very nice to have that. Kosana just stepping back, and Dwayne Muckett playing his crafts. He had a bit late there on the challenge.
It'll be Lindley. He's kept in play, and Tosh will nod it out. Collier was the target, seeding the back post. 12th minute, scoreless. These two teams combined for 6 goals in a preseason matchup. Louisville 4-2 victor with Devin Kermike-Watts on hand. Both teams have struggled to score statistically since that time. Memphis scored 5 times in 8 games. 4 of those have come on the road. Muckett. Abdi Mohammed. Give this a go, and lifted it over everybody. Select is the official ball supplier of the USL Championship in many of the finest leagues in the world since 1947. Select has been the leader in soccer ball quality and innovation. For the latest Select product special offers, visit selectsportamerica.com. You see the Select ball that they rolled out, was it the League One game in Madison, the opener? They used a neon ball in inches and inches of snow.
Imagine that ball alongside the Tampa Bay Rowdies uniforms. The glows.
It's overload. I can't do it.
Forget it, just white.
It's the 12th man.
I don't see anything.
It's a heavy challenge by Grandison. And Speedy Williams slow to his feet.
A bit chippy in the opening 13 minutes here. Lots of starts and stops, little fouls. Can't really get a pure flow going to the game.
Forget being malicious. Grandison didn't even intend to make a tackle there. I think he just lost his footing.
Happens to the best and worst of us.
Me being the worst, you being the best.
Give yourself some more credit than that.
I won't.
Good opportunity. Look at Taylor Pay on the back post. Paco Craig in there as well. Just float something in, let the big boys go up and get it. Remember, Scott Levine, only 4 appearances last year for Red Bull 2.
It'll be Niall McCabe. There's nothing doing here. You spoke with Niall McCabe this week a little bit, and Devin, what stood out to me in sort of recanting some of that conversation, that there's still belief this is all going to fit together eventually.
Especially when you take a look at the past 2 weeks. And that's really the movement that we've seen formationally It's only been in the recent few games. They were brilliant in the second half versus the Tampa Bay Rowdies.
Yes.
And it's given guys second and third opportunities to make their way back into this lineup. You take a look at Speedy Williams, who came on at the end of 2018, but to be fair, he was very in and out of the lineup, and now this year, he's really solidified that spot. Magnus Rasmussen, he's a guy who back in 2015, they forget, 8 goals, 5 assists, has almost disappeared from this altogether. Now, he stepped away from 1 year, but for the past 2, been almost non-existent, a utility player at times, now back in that starting role. So everybody has bought into the culture once again. They think it's going to happen, and if you take a look around the corner, look who's on the bench coming back. Luke Spencer feeling healthy. Hackworth telling us that George Davis is right there as well. So although there's been some frustrations early on, they get a win tonight. They're only 1 match, 3 points behind their 2018 routine so far through 8 games.
You mentioned it, Spencer and Davis are available tonight. Omby progressing. We saw him with a hefty knee brace, making rounds on the field before the game. Paolo Del Piccolo still struggling to get back to fitness. He's in partial training right now. So is Richard Ballard, a Louisville native. And here's Luke Spencer in the middle of your screen, former, well, coach alongside George Davis, part of the triumvirate.
It's nice to see them back on the bench. And you and I were discussing before, take a look at what we saw from the championship team in 2018 and where we're at now. We're injecting Kyle Smith depart.
Both to go with James O'Connor in Orlando.
Yep, Cameron Lancaster makes his way over to Nashville. Niall McCabe Ilya Illich is now at Indy 11. There's 4 guys that are vital, and then the 4 that are injured.
Niall McCabe! Put that over. That was one of the few guys who's sort of seen this thing through. He's trying to see this all the way through.
He has remained the constant, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Funny, because that was another thing he brought up, how John Hackworth has really taken advantage of his ability to be versatile, much like Morgan, where you can kind of play him everywhere, and they've done that on the left, on the right, in the 10, up top. And he said, you know, to be fair, it's really the first time that I've consistently been in a playmaking role in the middle of the field. It's kind of weird. I like it.
That's back set down to Muckett. Was Hackworth onside? He wasn't. Somewhere Tottenham fans are slapping their forehead.
not a good day for the Spurs, is it?
Great day for youth development in Ajax, huh?
These kids look like they can't even drive yet. But to be fair, in Europe, with the cost of a license, some of the driving ages, they might not be able to.
Some countries over there are speeding tickets most of your wage bill for a while. Rounds down kindly for McCabe, and that won't count. Birch has his arms extended.
Memphis handling the pressure up top well so far. A lot of it due to that man, Mark Birch, veteran who, looking at his 13th year professionally, you can see why. Good challenge, and that's just John coming in from behind. Center back had read it the entire way, just struggling a bit with the interchange of Louisville City FC in the middle of the field. Going forward, still showing their ability to impact their will offensively.
Oh, McCabe, great ball. Jam cutting this back. Can he find McCabe? The running shot is deflected away. Speedy Williams had pushed in. That's a fair challenge by Sean Tosh, coming forward from that new position and holding midfield. McCabe feels a bit let down. That gets out off him. I saw Niall after the championship. Wow, look at Graff. Graff cutting this along. Francis will kick it out. Lunt wasn't going to get there. That's an effort play from Jochen Graff, isn't it?
Quality explosion of speed. Saw Morgan Hackworth and Taylor Pay doing battles before, and Taylor able to get in front of him. Graff just ran right by Taylor Pay. Set piece opportunities. Here's where the center back comes up. He's got a sweet little left foot. It can hit it from anywhere.
Birch toward Grandison. With a worm burner right up the line. Lindley. Collier striding forward. It's knocked away from the New Zealand international.
It's a great look by Cam Lindley, though. Trusts his New Zealand player in Elliot Collier just to get down into the channel. There's a bit of space, puts it down in, and sometimes you just have to dump it, let someone go win a battle. Taylor ends up knocking it out, but still a good job. Hold up play by Elliot Collier, letting his boys get a long throw out of this.
Abdi Muhammad bouncing in.
Could have been a foul throw. Don't necessarily seen him called at this level, but the execution, you can see. Niall pointed right to it. If I could do his accent, I would, but I can't, so I won't.
The closed captioning would say unintelligible.
Yeah.
If you did it.
It's not words, Sneak Buddy.
Away from Lindley. I spoke with him after the USL Cup last year. Just described how much harder it was doing it a second time, and he had dealt with some hip injuries and had an addition to his family last year.
Had to tailor my interview with him due to nap time.
Yeah.
Said I put the little guy down around 2:30. How's that? I said, well, talking to your coach then, but I'm sure we can fit you in after. Just a really nice guy. He's done so well for this team in so many different roles, which we've already mentioned.
Emko Sana putting on a little clinic there. Emko Sana ultimately gives up the ball and then whacks Hackworth.
Morgan Hackworth has had a couple rough challenges so far. Chippiness still continues here, 21 minutes in. Better opportunities by Louisville City, though none of them really on frame. Memphis not backing down from the challenge either. We've seen them get forward, and it's a Jochen Graf and Elliot Collier. But where is the balance for Memphis so far? You've seen some things done in one-on-one situations. Can they get it on the left and the right?
Lindley floating. Collier blasting this toward the supporter section known as Scouse's house. Collier out of Loyola, Chicago, native of Hamilton, New Zealand. On the other side of that Lindley ball, Lindley was, for a time, a pretty prized prospect by Chicago in MLS. Ultimately let him go to Orlando. Got off to a pretty scintillating start under Jason Kreis. Then tactically fell out of favor, and under James O'Connor never featured. After Kreis was relieved of his duties last year. Kreis later calling him into the U23 national team this year. Rasmussen on the turn. Hey fans, you can follow Louisville or Memphis or the rest of the USL Championship all season long on ESPN+. It's home to the USL, MLS, UFC, and more. You can join over 2 million sports fans who already discovered ESPN+. Watch the championship and League One live every week. Sign up today, ESPNplus.com. It's the USL Championship game of the week on ESPN3. Ricochet off Collier, spin down balloon. Be on ESPN2 next Wednesday night. Tampa Bay will hopefully wear their neon kits as a way to smite us against Nashville.
What was harder for you, the Tampa Bay kits or the Celtic kits? the hoops and the gold numbers.
Well, they've got their own version of the Celtic hoops. I think some would argue that those are the rowdy hoops over here, but
what's funny, because when you look at it, the jerseys are beautiful.
They're awesome. I want to own one. I just don't want to broadcast a game with them.
Announcer's nightmare. It is so difficult to see the numbers, and fortunately enough, we don't really have any live, so we know the guys just by a quick glance on television.
That's Bucket. And Tosh slides in. back to Jimenez. Baker's dozen assists last year for Jimenez. Turned over by Rasmussen. Trying to unleash Sean Francis. Jam. Francis get him up that far touchline.
Ball has to be quicker by Rasmussen in that situation. Excellent job playing out. Nice little one touches, and when Jimenez pushes it in, all he has to do is bring it across, one touch, then hit it. Takes a second and a third and allows Wes Sharpie to step up, win the ball. It's good defending, but poor execution by Magnus.
Hackworth showing a bit of creativity. And Joachim Graf will step forward. Hackworth. Graf curling inside. The cross is too high for Muckett. Got dumped by Jimenez. I'll say this, I do think Memphis has pressed more than I thought they would, coming off 3 days rest, and a team that could, on the road, easily sit in like they did a bit against Nashville a couple weeks ago. But I feel like they've picked their moments and at times made things a little difficult for a Louisville side that sometimes struggles to problem solve.
We've given Louisville a lot of credit on their ability to make all these formation switches, but how about Tim Mulqueen and his boys up top?
Bounces through to Graf. Well, he's wagging his finger at the AR, whose flag is up. Eric Wood and Noah Matos are the assistants.
We already talked about Morgan Hackworth and his ability to shapeshift across the field. Dwayne Muckett understanding Elliot Collier wants to fulfill a similar role, however, on the wings, and Collier has been active both on the right and the left. That's made it difficult for this back line of Louisville City to really understand the true flow that is this 901 squad. And to be fair, Memphis trying to figure that out themselves, to your point, Mike, where they've looked superb in some matches. They ran Atlanta United 2 off the park a few weeks ago, couldn't hit the back of the net.
Rasmussen lobbing it up, ball's loose. Levine and Jam, former teammates at UConn, colliding. It will be a corner for Louisville. Levine apparently did get a piece of that, and Jam's feeling worse for the wear.
This is close, and our referee Ismar Pekmic has a good look at it. A lot of the 901 players feeling no one gets a touch on this ball. And to be fair, it hits his shoulder, but it does hit Jam on the second go-around to go out. Should be a goal kick. Louisville gonna get away with one here.
Jimenez lethal on set pieces at times. Skied in the air by Todd Pratzner. Further by Ewan Grandison. As far as McCabe. Headed across. Now lobbed toward the net. That'll get wide of the post.
A lot of blue-collar work being done by both squads there. Looked like there was going to be a poor clearance by Todd Pratzner, who hit it right down the middle. A good job just moving the high line out. Well, McCabe collected this and then sprayed it back outside, but Memphis had already worked their way outside of the top of the 18. Difficult to whip one back in. You can see all the Louisville players just scrambling to try and get ahead on it.
Kosana going into Grandison. Those two have had a couple of tough meetings so far.
Lucky has to be careful. That's the fourth whistle on him in the first half, and eventually, more sooner than later, referee probably going to make his way to the book.
Can I make the argument that with Luke Spencer finally back, and we've been told 100%, he can be chippier than he was last week, knowing he's got a true backup?
He's got to show what he's made of, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Prove your value.
Pinged up field, trying to curl around this. That'll get away from Wes Sharpie.
It's not mad from Memphis so far, but where's the play in the middle of the field? Tim Mulqueen telling us that he really liked the combination of Najim and Cameron Lindley. That obviously didn't come to fruition with Najim being on the bench tonight, and that could be due to squad rotation. Maybe pick something up in training. Again, only a few days between their last match against the Battery, which they probably should have taken down. Cam Lindley had a couple goes, but primarily it's just been Graf, Hackworth, and Collier doing all the work up top. And though it's been impressive by the three, they need more help.
Jimenez lining this up. Hurled it over everybody. Williams will turn and face. Memphis telling us they brought more than 18 on the bus because they weren't quite sure how everybody was going to feel this morning and woke up at the hotel in Louisville. Chested down toward Rasmussen by Jam. Graff tugging on Taylor Pay. Graff was a great goal scorer for Rochester and Bob Lilly a couple years ago. Really shot onto the scene within the championship. 11 goals, a career high, but the 29-year-old finished with just one last year, starting with the Rowdies. And then after the change in coaching staff from Stu Campbell over to Neil Collins, moving on to Reno, where he didn't really latch into the rotation there either.
It was difficult for him. You know, just never really getting into the starting lineup for Neil Collins after the departure of Stuart Campbell. Tampa Bay Rowdies have certainly turned things around since then, especially in 2019, but Graff is that point man, and he's shown us before that he's capable of getting it done. Hoping for a resurgence here in Memphis.
Williams, a lot of purple jerseys in the mixer. Francis skies this up and placed out by Abdi Muhammad. Corner Louisville just after the half-hour mark.
Oscar Jimenez probably looking for the possibility of playing a quick short corner. You can see him eyeing right at the top of the 18, taking his time, moving over to the corner flag, but opposite, he's going to hit it instead.
Jimenez, and that's put over. Doesn't really have much of a chance. So Scott Levine will go to work here, the goalkeeper for Memphis, after now McCabe failed to really test him.
This is a hard one to take as a player. Obviously something that they feel comfortable with because they've tried it a few times in practice. You and I saw it at the Cup last year. So many tricks in the bag of theirs. Just knocks it, it's bouncing, it's hard on the surface right there. Very difficult to execute. McCabe went with the instep, which placement-wise is the right thing, but due to the pitch, maybe better suited to try and put your laces on it. Either way, very difficult to take.
Craig, whose form has taken a very sudden rise back to expectation. Twice Defensive Player of the Year finalist. Relegated to the bench a couple weeks ago and has quickly returned to very top-class form. Graff, well, Craig puts his body on the line, came away with it. Craig takes just a ton of pride in his work, he really does. Rasmussen. And Kosana. McCabe. Francis for Tosh. McCabe bounds down Rasmussen! Louisville leads at 33 minutes.
They've been calculating, trying to find ways to break down the back line of 901 FC. Very difficult to do as the structure from Mulqueen's boys has been almost unbearable in the offensive third. Carrying most of their possession in the middle, and on the defensive side of things, great buildup. The ball in isn't the best, to be fair. Unfortunately, it can't be cleared out. Second chance opportunity, both literally and figuratively, for Magnus Rasmussen as he nets his 13th goal over the course of 4 stints with Louisville City FC. Talk about a guy taking a chance to better his opportunities. Injuries have hurt them. Rasmussen steps in, gets the goal, 1-0 Louisville.
He scored 1 goal last year. Who did he score it against? Scott Levine with the Red Bulls in a 3-3 draw in the 90+5.
It's higher, that's right.
Levine's looking at this guy like he's the monster under his bed right now.
Go home, man. Leave me alone. I've dealt with it enough. Now what's the response from the visitors? Again, they did get their 1 win on the road at Bethlehem Steel. You go down 1-0, about 10 minutes to halftime. Hasn't been poor from them whatsoever, to be fair. Quite well on the defensive side of things, just lacking a bit offensively. Can they turn things around?
Burge. Muhammad moving into that left back role, having come out of college as a midfielder. Don't you think Jared Embick and Ray Reed are watching this game like, hey, I know these guys, the UConn and Akron head coaches?
Just a bit, huh? Both of those guys have sent so many players to both the MLS and the championship level.
This has just got to be total deja vu for them. John chasing it, his former teammate under Ray Reed at UConn, Levine. Levine stepping in for Jeff Caldwell, who started every game this year, the loanee from NYCFC. Frankly, a bit of a surprise to us, given how much praise Tim Mulqueen heaped on him at the start of this year. Tim Mulqueen, a longtime goalkeeping coach, including working under John Hackworth with the U.S. national team. Here's a set piece ahead here for Memphis. This is interesting. We'll see Cam Lindley again on this. Birch to move into the penalty area.
It's quite difficult from a left footer's perspective to put something on frame here. Mark Birch traditionally hitting most of the dead ball situations, but good look from Lindley. Been only going with the 2-man wall. Lindley fancies himself, but he wants people to come a bit closer, challenge the angle. Most assuredly putting this into the mixer.
Lindley, ball headed down towards Pratzner. And now the whistle comes. Pay rolling along the 6-yard box.
Great ball swung in by Cam Lindley. Just a boatload of pace and dip on the ball, right on the back post. One of the likes of Birch, Collier, possibly even Todd Pratzner to get involved. All 3 of them, including Jochen Graf, right in there. Good stuff to just redirect it across the middle. That's Wes Sharpie in the trailing run.
Coming up at halftime, take a look at the upcoming game of the week schedule. Will be on your television over these next 3 games of the week. Highlight stats, and we'll tell you about news and notes from around the league, including Kevon Frater, Player of the Week for New Mexico. Goodness gracious, what a performance he put on against Timbers too. Two teams that right now find themselves below the 10-team cut line in the 18-team championship Eastern Conference. Louisville in 11th. Memphis just 5 points to show for their first 8 games. Both sides they've created at a level one would have thought just as easily be top 6, top 7 in the East with a couple bounces. Graf picked away by Craig. Louisville with a win would move to 6th tonight. Memphis would still be below that 10-team line.
Great job by Abdi Mohammed just tracking back Referee got in the way of the ball coming across the middle. But he did very well for himself to hold off the run from Kosana. That's what you need out of the outside backs with all this movement from Lou City FC. It's a good look at Elliot Collier tucking in. Cam Lindley rotating back out to the right. Dwayne Muckett has weighed his way all the way over. If you could just pin a high line, I think Louisville play out of the back here. Gives you a much better opportunity to compress the spaces, not allow them to transition going forward.
McCabe pushed away by Grandison for a moment. Muhammad dropping in. Menez forced into reverse. Craig. Sham. Look at this skill. Was that the cherry on top of a goal-scoring moment for Louisville? It won't be. Memphis takes it back. Sham's a fun player to watch. I think a lot of people thought, oh, he's a goal scorer. John Hackworth thinks he can be a lot more than that.
Gives you the two-sided monster, the flash and the glamour. Very pretty up top. Louisville couldn't get anything out of it. It just goes to show that left side, I still look at them. When you see going the other direction, the way that they're situated, Louisville City FC, they're most exposed on the left. Let's get a better look at the footwork. Very pretty. Well done by Sharpie to just stand it up there, didn't chase, kept the ball in front of him. And when you start to go the other direction, Jochen Graf composes himself, looks up, and then he holds it up. Like to see them go with a little bit of pace, to be honest, because Louisville gets so stretched out.
Francis, a swipe, nothing at it for Levine. Recovered by Jimenez toward Kosana, bounces down by Rasmussen, cleared for a moment. Francis, kept by McCabe. Now he'll send service. Kosana dropped to ground. Jimenez. It's the fourth time the charm here for Louisville. Rasmussen, Muhammad did bring him down. It's outside the penalty area. And a whole wealth of options here for Louisville on the upcoming free kick.
Very unlucky for Abdi Mohammed that he can't react sooner. Rasmussen got this ball out in front of him on a quick little step over of his own, let it get away. Mohammed tried to challenge. Rasmussen got there just in time to be taken down. And this is one of those ones where it's such a gray area. What do you do as an attacker? Very difficult to have a strike on goal, as you can see from the angle. So you better bet it's something they've worked up on the training ground. This is one where you get the big guys on the back post, so you give you an opportunity to float it in if need be. However, keep an eye, overlapping run, and then maybe a dash right at the top of the six.
It'll be Jimenez playing it to the top. And again, similar to what we saw in a corner a few moments ago, McCabe came rushing in and puts it over the crossbar.
Jimenez actually was on the same wavelength as I. He was pointing for him to come closer. He said, I wanted to put it here, and you waited. And he's right. Watch as he just rolls this thing out. Boom, needed to be hit there. Instead, goes another 5 feet. Now McCabe form fails him a bit as you see him leaning back. He knows, doesn't like where it was hit on the field. To that point, that's something as a Lou City player, you have to be more understanding of where the ball is. If he steps a bit further, it's still on the natural grass.
Flick toward McCabe. Puts it into space. Kosana playing the on-rushing McCabe. Rasmussen. Springing Jam. Works on Pratzner. Jam tried to lay it in front. Birch It's an easy clearance as far as Collier, and struck in a way that brings some blushes. That'll get out. 45th minute from Louisville, Kentucky. And Louisville will open their brand new stadium next year in the Butchertown neighborhood. Devin, it's starting to round into form a little bit. We're seeing the skeleton of it curl around into a bowl shape, and the images of it are fantastic. One more year at Slugger Field, and then they're going to open this glorious venue that is, I think, what most teams in USL Championship would love to have in the future.
It's a bit different than the dirt we saw back in November.
No kidding.
Yeah, the renderings are quite spectacular, to be honest. And just the opportunity to have any sort of place to call home is such a great honor as a player, yet alone what Louisville City has been able to put together and all of the backing that they have from their organization.
We saw all the images this past week about Minnesota United and the first time they were able to sing Wonderwall after a win and the first goal and all those first moments, the first call to post, the first My Old Kentucky Home. For Memphis this year, their first guitar smash. They're just traditions that are yours, whether it's the first game you play or your first game at a new venue. It really is something that's spectacular about this growing league at present. Into the latter half of our 1 minute of stoppage time. Can Memphis find one? It's going to be tough as Graff let that get under him. Halftime whistle. Magnus Rasmussen scores with an assist off Todd Pratzner's noggin inadvertently. And as he strolls off with his Lou City teammates, his second goal of the year, as Louisville out in front of Memphis. Anybody's game from here, Devin.
Memphis just have to keep their head up. They did well for themselves for most of the first half. Just need to find a way to change things up offensively in the second half. We'll talk about that deeper at halftime. For the back-to-back champs, need a bit more quality in the final third. However, they'll be more than happy to be up 1-0 at halftime.
Well, Devin and I will grab our mint juleps on Kentucky Derby Festival night, put on our special hats, strum our special guitars. Purple family in full-throated defense of Lou City as they take a 1-0 lead over Memphis at the half. Highlights, stats, news and notes, and more coming up after this. Louisville City and Memphis in the USL Championship game of the week. Lou City a 1-0 lead. Highlight stats and more are coming up. Devin, you recently got married over the offseason, so you know that what Lance McGarvey is experiencing today is not only a long way away, but very impressive. 25 years ago, he got married. The voice of Lou City. There he was pregame, marrying his wife, Suzanne. 3 amazing kids later, he says this silly small-town kid is celebrating 25 years.
That right there is an honor to know a man like that, a stand-up guy start to finish. And by the way, anyone that's willing to offer to buy me a drink knows what they're doing, because they don't know what they're getting into if you haven't before.
You think that's a highlight? Take a look at the championship's very best from Week 7 and League One's best from Week 4.
Flemings around 1, around 2. Still Junior Flemings. He's going to have a go. Excellent from Junior Flemings. Here's Spees looking for the curler, and what a save from Curtis Anderson. Guadarrama wants it himself. What a goal from Guadarrama.
The cross deflected. What a stop by Brown in the top corner.
Another chance here for New Mexico, and they've got the equalizer.
Chadama will strike it with his right foot. Whistle blows. Steps. Strikes. And saved by Rodriguez.
Here's Woodbine into the box. Van Schake's there. Van Shake!
Has chance on for Louisville. And again, Callum Irving grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck as Ben Spees lets one fly and drills it. Like a Langsdorff header. And McCarthy once more. Big shot and score! Cross, oh, what a save by Matt Pickens! Here come the Rowdies. Guenzati's shot, score!
Now Morton's coming up, it's headed and in.
The flick. Could it be 2? Yes, it is. That's Hellman.
Here's Banks. Banks from distance, and that's knocked away.
Gallardo at the top of the box. Lee gets a touch, still driving in, sends it, and into the back of the net.
It's like Joe Gallardo took almost on the entire defense there. Step left for the shot.
Chipped in, headed away by Lockby. Second chance coming, diving, stopped by Fitzgerald.
Minnesota and with Jacksonville. Nunez, and that finds the side of the net. Most of these, he takes this one.
Welcome back to the USL Championship Game of the Week on ESPN3 with Devin Kerr and our incredible ESPN crew, Mike Watts, as Lou City has a 1-0 lead over the expansion side, 901 FC, hailing from Memphis. Devin, let's take a look at the news and notes around the USL as the grand opening for Loudoun United and Hartford Athletic, some home games. Now, Dillon Stadium isn't ready, but boy, does Hartford need to get home. They start at Rensselaer Field. Indy 11 has moved one more hurdle up with their stadium as well.
Indy 11, I was all for them and what they were doing offensively and how great they were looking. They bought a big one against Red Bull 2 this weekend, but their stadium didn't. I mean, what's going on out there looks fantastic. Good stuff for Martin Rennie and those boys in that city. That's a fun place to be if you hadn't had the opportunity. And I want to stay on Jimmy Nielsen because I'm pulling for him. You feel bad, the 0-8 start, but the schedule didn't do him any favors. But now an opportunity to get some momentum going. They've got a nice slate of games right now, 2-3, that they could really pick up some points.
Meanwhile, scores from the weekend as the Rowdies and Fresno both remain unbeaten, as the Galaxy 2 and Las Vegas Lights finish scoreless on Monday. Ottawa a 2-0 win over ATL UTD 2. Mention the Rowdies, a 1-1 draw. Sac and Phoenix 0-0. That was sort of one of the games everyone had their eye on.
It was weird, though. It was tactically, it was brilliant. They played off of each other very well. However, with the offensive firepower, you would have expected a bit more. If you would have stayed up late on Friday night, you would have gotten the likes of New Mexico United and T2. That was a barn burner.
all the Lou City fans who miss Cameron Lancaster may have a chance to see him next week in the USL Championship Game of the Week on ESPN 2. The Deuce, Nashville, Tampa Bay, and then we're on ESPN News for our following two affairs.
Good opportunity for Gary Smith's boys to get something going because their wins haven't been against quality opponents, and Neil Collins has the Rowdies clicking. So that'll be a nice matchup. And turn the corner, Ian Russell, Reno, Phoenix. A couple weeks down the road, mid-season form. What's that going to be? Both teams very up and down early goings of 2019.
And the Rowdies used to be on the road. They're actually all right.
They're good.
They're good.
They look nice.
They're good on the road. Well, right now it is the Purple family, the supporters groups for Louisville, trying to grab a nice adult water and get ready for the second half. Grab your popcorn. We've got highlights, stats, and more after this timeout. Louisville, Kentucky, home to the twice reigning champions of the USL Cup. Devin Kerr, Mike Watts, Memphis paying their first visit in the regular season in their first year in the championship. Let's take a look at highlights from the first half, and it's one in which Louisville takes a lead and really did have the better of the play over the 45 minutes.
Got it going 9 minutes in. Niall McCabe fancied himself from distance. Unfortunately, nobody else did. Poor to say the least. Can't really get it on target. Not enough power, not enough placement. Very difficult to beat Scott Levine from that distance. And Louisville really had an up and down first half on the offensive side of things. They could progress over midfield, but from there, truly lacking a way to finish things off. This ball in from Rasmussen to the back post. Abdou Jam trying to finish things off, couldn't do it. They'd find it again in the 27th minute, just around the corner. This time it's Rasmussen trying to get in on the header. He tries to get things done. This ball gets lofted in, and they had trouble because it was already knocked in once. Niall McCabe does well to hold it up, but when it gets put back in, second ball by Taylor, third ball by Rasmussen to the far post. Scott Levine knows better. 6 minutes would go by, but Rasmussen would finally get his opportunity to make his mark on this game. And we talked about so many players getting second and third chances with all the injuries. Rasmussen's one who has stepped in, done very well for himself. Only one goal on the year so far, but starting to find the form that we saw in previous years, like in 2015. Unfortunate bounce off the center back, Todd Pratzner. Great job by Rasmussen just bringing this down and finding the back of the net.
Second of the year, second in the last 2 years against Levine. And Rasmussen putting Louisville in front right at 33 minutes in this first half. Then a late couple chances off set pieces for Memphis.
Took about 5 minutes for them to really recover from the goal. Good ball to the back post by Cam Lindley. Nice second ball played in. from West Sharpie. Unfortunately, they couldn't get a third body on it. Referee ended up blowing a whistle here, and just before halftime, Niall McCabe, excellent opportunity from the set piece, 43rd minute. Loved what Oscar Jimenez was thinking. Puts a little roller right around the penalty mark. Unfortunately, Niall McCabe takes a bit long to get to it, hops up on him right when it goes to the turf. You can see it skip up. Even though he's leaning back, probably still wouldn't have put it on frame, but a good chance for the defending champions to get a second one. Couldn't execute.
Well, nothing on target for Memphis, and while Ben Loon is a little hamstrung with his ankle, it hasn't been a problem because he hasn't been tested.
Everything really has been basically three guys up top in the likes of Morgan Hackworth, Elliot Collier, and Jochen Graffen. It's been difficult because the back line of Louisville, they don't have a lot of marking options, but those three have done well for themselves. They just need more help. They need Muckett, Lindley, and even Grandison to push a higher line and really make Lou play out of the back. The balance for Louisville City isn't what we saw in the past. Previous two games, they carried a balance about 30% on the right and left. This time they're at 43 on the right, 25 on the left. So everything running through Oscar Jimenez.
Well, we've mentioned briefly the Hackworth Derby today, and we were asking if there are any pictures of young Morgan Hackworth around the teams that John Hackworth has coached. The U.S. national team, the Philadelphia Union, the USF side that he coached in college. How about this gem? That's Keaton and Morgan on the left-hand side, and then it's actually Jeff McRaney's kids, the team administrator for the national team. And Devin, you know who the stars are.
Well, Bobby Convey still looks like Bobby Convey. He still looks like him today. How about Landon Donovan with that full head of hair?
I know.
Love it. And the man who's still getting it done, DeMarcus Beasley. Ripe young age and really, really cool to see. I know. How about the necklace? The 7. So golden by DeMarcus. Love him. His brother was a phenomenal indoor player, too.
And it's amazing because DeMarcus actually gave his cleats to Morgan. Morgan has still kept those cleats and gone around with them. Morgan was essentially the assistant to the equipment manager, so to speak, when John Hackworth was an assistant. That's what all the kids did in the Hackworth family. And so Morgan still has those cleats from the Ecuador game in Tampa Bay, the first game John Hackworth was around the national team. It's almost something that they take for granted, he said.
He went a step further, and when we were asking him for possibly some pictures, he said, you know what, it's going to be difficult because we did take all of those opportunities for granted because it became second nature for them. When you're around situations like that all the time, you don't realize how things come and go, and what a cool way to reminisce about not only the relationship between John and his son Morgan, but their ability to be impacted by such amazing ambassadors of this games and the like of Bobby Convey, DeMarcus Beasley, and of course, Landon Donovan.
And long before Donovan was with the San Diego Sockers, as he is now, of course, an incredible career in MLS and overseas. He had some success. Hackworth, early into the attack, gets caught by Loon, his former teammate at Akron. I was taken by John Hackworth discussing the role he had with the national team. The first practice that he was around the team, Landon Donovan pulled him afterwards and said, hey, talk to me about finishing. Let's do some drills. And it's all about what can you provide to players. And that was one of those crystallizing moments for John Hackworth where he gave something of value to Landon Donovan and everyone kind of went, okay, this guy fits, this guy can help us. He said same thing with Louisville when he got to Louisville at the mid-stage of last year. Hey, what can you do to help us get better? And Kosana driving that to no one in particular.
You better believe Greg Berhalter at the next stage is looking for the same thing now. And for you to make an impact on someone like Landon Donovan and then for that to spiral in a positive manner to other players, such a great thing. Very difficult to do, but it's also the ability of the player to have an open mind and be willing to be receptive to advice from the likes of John Hackworth or anybody else stepping into a situation like that. Because at the end of the day, it's another look, another opinion, another option that's only going to make you better. It's not going to hurt you.
Last year, John Hackworth said he'd be hypocritical if he made too many changes, and then he ultimately did it. And this year, he kind of said, I'm going to be a mad scientist, and if you guys believe in what we're doing, it's going to work, and it's the rotation you highlighted pregame on the offensive end for Louisville. It's very difficult to defend.
It's funny, too, because last year we had the opportunity for the final to talk to the likes of Luke Spencer, George Davis, Del Piccolo, a bunch of other guys as well.
Yeah.
But you almost felt like what they were telling you was rehearsed because everything sounded so similar, so much so that talking to Niall McCabe this week, he shared the same sentiments of, to be fair, last year Hackworth didn't really change that much. Just tweaked a few things here and there, but he believed in what we were doing, and now we believe in him. And to your point, they've been brilliant after all of the injuries. And to be fair, it could have been a lot worse, but it hasn't been. But I'm still on the thought process of what's the next step? They start winning these games. They hold this thing together. They get everybody back. Then where do you go? And the mark of a true champion is they've always been able to evolve, but still keep their identity.
Whoa, Graf! That's off target. I can't describe the look Devin just made. You and I are going, whew, that is top 10 material if it goes in. Otherwise, it's pretty irrelevant.
This is well done by Ben Loon to be close on his line, because with the second flick here, watch the runoff. Oh, it actually comes off Tosh. Falls nicely for Jochen Graf. Loon's got the near post. I thought that was dropping in.
I did. Pratzner upfield. Both teams remain the same at half. Louisville in purple in the attacking third now.
Unlucky by Hackworth here as this comes off his hand. Great step from behind to win the challenge. Once again, can Memphis find a way to exploit not only the left side, but the back line itself of Louisville City? Very difficult in the first half. Would really like to see them try and go in transition a bit more.
Francis off of Birch. Couple poor clearances. Tosh trying to line that up off of Wes Sharpie. He was in doubt in the lead up to this game. Gets the deflection, corner coming.
A couple shouts for handball off of Mark Birch as this ball deflected off that foot of his in the middle of the box. Made its way back around. Tosh able to get a shot off. There's a better look. Swung in. And it definitely doesn't hit his arm. Comes right off the lower midsection. Well done by the holding midfielder. Get a second opportunity, and good tracking back by Wes Sharpie.
Headers high from Paco Craig. Well, here comes Memphis, and you wouldn't blame fans for feeling an element of deja vu. 7 one-goal games this year. Team that just says if we can get one goal in their 340 minutes or so without a goal now, 3+ games, one goal and the dam's gonna break. Dev, you've been on teams that have had those moments, not because of you, of course, but
it's very frustrating. It is mentally defeating, and that's the biggest issue that you start to run into is confidence. When you see that the play is well, you're putting together solid performances, but the results just aren't translating into the points or moving up the table, it hurts, and it's very difficult to keep things together like that. Tim Mulqueen said that his boys, though, they're mentally strong. They like what's going on, and they should be. They've had some quality performances. We've referenced a few of them already, but we'll go with the recent one versus the Battery, where they basically let their guard down for all of 15 seconds at the tail end of the game. Battery able to find one, as Anhauser and his boys have so many times before. They get snake bitten and end up going down 1-0, losing 1-0.
Dante Marini scored in the 90+ third. The oft-used substitute spark plug. Collier. John's going to give this chase, but Birch heads it upfield. Grandison, the native of Jamaica. Lindley. Craig on the turn. Sharpie was there. Collier. Throw for Sharpie. We're told he is just so underrated by the media at large. Some fans probably don't recognize just how valuable he is. Steady force. And happy he was able to go again here tonight. It's 72 hours after that game against Charleston.
People forget this is very much a job for all of these players. So difficult to recover your body and just constantly put it through an absolute battering. massive amount of conditioning you have to be able to turn around and go right back on the pitch, as you mentioned. So 72 hours later, very difficult to do.
Well, Muckett saying, kick this out. See if we can get a better look here. What went on? That's Abdi Muhammad.
Outside left back, drifting in, good step on M. Kasana. Speedy Williams following through. Just a touch, feels like a love tap, but at that speed, and the size of these guys, how muscular they are, it can feel like a rhino running through you. That's how Abdi Muhammad feels right about now in the lower midsection. Grabbed one in the stomach. A few deep breaths, glass of water, right back at it. The referee wants him to leave, and he's not having it. Mark Birch, his captain, stepping up saying, why?
Well, there wasn't a yellow card brandished, and someone did come out to see him. I think this one's somewhat clear.
Yeah, it's easy.
Muhammad, a native of Kenya, grew up in Columbus, went to Ohio State for 3 years, three-time All Big Ten selection, on to Akron, reached the College Cup last year.
A little bit of French being employed on the sideline, and that's okay. We unfortunately can't translate it, as neither Mike or I are fluent in it. We got enough problems with English.
I was just in France last week, didn't understand a lick.
See, there you go.
Nope.
Same problem here in the States.
He's saying I don't understand the language here either, just that language.
No, just that language.
Okay.
Abdi Muhammad, one of the guys that did not stay for the new era at Ohio State under Brian Mazonoff, and he was pretty upset about that. Boatload of talent. It gives you an idea when you can go from a school like Ohio State for 3 years, who was struggling with their results, and make the jump to Akron, who is just an absolute powerhouse at the collegiate level.
Play over 20 games for the Zips.
Things fell short, didn't it?
Yeah.
Just right there versus Maryland.
You saw Ohio State earlier this year. I think you came away pretty impressed with them, actually.
It's difficult. Loads of talent, new coach. I mean, it's a project for sure.
Yeah.
But Brian Mazonoff getting the opportunity to go back home and really kind of build from the ground up. Again, a lot of talent. There's just no true identity. Kind of similar to what Memphis is going on right now. A lot of positive talking points, but not necessarily translating into results just yet.
See what Cam Lindley has to offer here out of North Carolina. 21-year-old former ACC midfielder of the year. He was an instant starter for Orlando City after coming out that ACC power. And fell out of favor. That's a new chance here. Lindley short-armed it. Muhammad has returned for Memphis. Rasmussen, Birch. Collier being held for a moment by Francis. Memphis has taken just 1 point from the 4 games in which they conceded first. Problem being they've only scored 1 first-half goal this year. They're hoping to find an equalizer or more here in the USL Championship Game of the Week. Be sure to tune in next week, Wednesday, May the 8th, as the ESPN USL Championship Game of the Week heads to Music City on ESPN2. We showcase the Tampa Bay Rowdies traveling to Nashville. Contest featuring 2 playoff hopefuls. They certainly look it right now. The week's best match, the Game of the Week, May 8th, 8 Eastern on ESPN2. How about the draft in Nashville, the NFL draft?
That was crazy.
That was awesome. And you see all the bachelorettes that got let down by taking their parties to... I've been to Nashville. That city is awesome. I've been to Memphis. That city's awesome. Turns out, I just like Tennessee.
Well, a year ago this time, I was in this very
in
city
Kentucky
for
going
my
to the
bachelor
Derby.
party.
That's right.
Oh, man. I actually created a home base, and we were based out of Nashville. We commuted.
That's right.
Lovely. Got to experience the best of both worlds.
All sent along. Kosana trying to get his head to it.
Mark Birch, someone who's stepped back in since Jacob Hauser-Ramsey struggled with his concussion. Having his hands full with Kosana here in the second half. It's close. Well done by the center back to get out in front. Made it very difficult for Lucky. It's got to be a bit of a moral defeat here for 901 FC. As talked about, they had not scored a goal coming into this game. 296 minutes. They've only led for 54 minutes total. And the problem is their 5 goals for. That's 33rd in the league. And again, just on the offensive end, really struggling to make a regular impact, as they've shown you some glimpses from Elliot Collier, Jochen Graf, Morgan Hackworth, as Collier will take a seat, and Rashawn Dolly, someone who has been a bright light for them up top, gets his opportunity to step in the 59th minute.
Dolly on loan from FC Cincinnati. Much like Louisville goalkeeper Ben Loon. This is slid well over the top. Well, how do things change here with Rashawn Dolly? He's much more of a true forward in the games I've seen of him. And so is Jochen Graf. So do you play those two up front together?
It's difficult because of the way tactically they're set up right now. You would really have to slide Morgan Hackworth out on the right and allow Dolly to step up alongside Jochen Graf. Now you could drop Graf in just a touch, playing underneath the 9 and Dolly, because he can hold up play quite well, especially from an aerial threat standpoint.
McCabe trying to chest that up. There's Dolly in the middle of the field, 14 in white. And out on the right, Hackworth gave chase. We'll run all the way to Loon.
They still need to find a way to get Cam Lindley more involved in the run of play going forward. He and Ewan Grandison have had to be so reserved because of the defensive duties. But if they can just step a bit here and there, nothing drastic, just like that.
Looking for Graf. Maybe another look here for Lindley. Jam pushing it on Pratzner. Jam plays it in front. Kosana is there. Lucky knows how to celebrate. Game winner last week. He's on the score sheet again. 2-0 Louisville.
We told you how this formation has changed so much to allow this team to explode going forward. What a beautiful representation that we get on this counterattack by Lou City. Cam Lindley turns it over on the other side after 901 FC stepped high. They do not remain composed on the defensive side of things. Watch how quick this is. Good ball in by Rasmussen, not a great one. And Todd Pratzner, just a poor step. Needed to do much better. Misfortune for one, fame for another. Jom gets it out in front of him, allows the run to develop on the backside by Kosana, stepping out from the wing. Just tucks in behind the space that Jom had created. Ball gets played across, back of the net. Louisville have done very well for themselves in the counterattacking tonight.
Zimbabwean international has his second goal of the season. And Louisville are 2 goals up at home and looking very much the side that will string together home wins and home results at a staggering level. You know, if you're Tim Mulqueen, at this point, not a lot to lose by pushing forward, but you do know you just played on the weekend and you've got Birmingham coming up. There's a lot going through his mind, I would imagine.
We'll go a step further. He talks to us about kind of the one bounce here and there and just a bit of luck. How about that? Pratzner, little bounce in front of him. It's not the best by the center back, but it still takes a little bit of an awkward bounce, gets in behind, and they go the other way again.
And Dev, here's the thing about Todd Pratzner. The ball for Rasmussen that sat came off his head, and it's not his fault. He's in the wrong place at the wrong time. But after a game like tonight, maybe you'd like to give him a rest, and he's played a lot of minutes of late. You don't have that luxury because there are so many injuries, especially to the center back area of that back line, that right now you can't play to form. You got to play who's available.
And I'm not going to tell you which coach said this to me, but they had an opponent earlier this year, and I quote, "We are going right at Todd Pratzner." They thought he was the weakest link, and they wanted to run at him. So it was no surprise 2 weeks later when the change had already come by Tim Mulqueen to bring in Jacob Hauser-Ramsey. He fit very nicely next to Mark Birch, and unfortunately picks up the concussion. He's now been out for 2 games, so they're trying to nurse him back to health. But to your point, Mike, they're just littered with injuries top to bottom, and there's not exactly a lot of depth on the back line. Bad bounce on the Rasmussen goal, bad bounce on the through ball to Abdou-Jam, and sometimes you just kind of got to shake your head and move on because there's still plenty of game to play here. Yes, you're down 2-0, but plenty of opportunities to get back in it.
Williams, Jimenez, Jam, and Birch will come away with it. If you're looking for a guy to lead your franchise, Birch is probably your man. 12 years of professional experience coming in. Tim Mulqueen said, this is Mark's team.
That's why they went out and got him immediately, said that he embodied everything they wanted 901 FC to be. He's played up to it as well. He's one of the guys who's done it both offensively and defensively, and you can't really ask much more out of your center back because at some point in time, somebody else has to rise to the occasion. You've seen some of it from Elliot Collier at times. To be fair, the person who was second in line was probably Adonajim, but unfortunately he's on the bench tonight.
Corner Louisville. Jimenez. Tosh. Too high for Paco Craig to get to it.
It's those second and third opportunities that seem to be plaguing Memphis. Obviously designed set piece once again. Just a ball to the back post. Tosh drifts back and is able to get to it. Memphis have to find a better way to put a body on him. Really challenge. It's not like it's a second or third ball that Tosh is going after. That's the initial ball played in by Oscar Jimenez. And for that to be allowed over and over and over again is not a good look for Mulqueen's boys.
Jam swiveling it out. Francis cutting it across the grain. Great save, Levine. Just barely got a paw to that. Louisville following. Jimenez. Jimenez trying to backheel this. Williams deflected away. Corner coming for Louisville. Niall McCabe robbed of a goal. Maybe a shot in the arm for Memphis. Maybe Louisville is closing in on one more.
This is beyond difficult for Scott Levine to take as he slides over. The run of play going one way, sliding back the other. And it's just a sitter right at the top of the penalty mark. Great save, tracking it all the way through in traffic.
Suing corner, Pratzner there. It's Williams. A laser beam. Louisville starting to get chances by the bunch.
Go back to the first one by Scott Levine. Francis did well to bring it down. Probably should have hit it the first time, to be honest. But a good job just biding his time. Great save by Levine. How about the fancy footwork here? Morgan forgot something, buddy. This is the corner coming in, gets floated in. Just drops in right at the top of the box. Speedy, we've seen him hit him there from before. Usually on the ground, strikes from distance. Very accustomed to it for sure. Speedy Williams still looking to open his scoring campaign in 2019. What an impact he had to the cup run in 2018.
Emko Sana. Jimenez bringing it through. Jimenez tried to lay that across for Jam. Blood in the water right now.
The fans appreciate it as well. Oscar Jimenez putting on some sort of personal exhibition. Saw the 1-2 to himself through Morgan Hackworth's legs. Watch this little touch around Mark Birch. Sorry, buddy. Seasoned vet for sure, but don't forget that Oscar Jimenez is still capable of individual glory.
It's short. We've seen this before. McCabe. Well, here comes a change. Josh Morton will make his second appearance for Memphis.
Josh Morton definitely stepping in for Wes Sharpe, trying to get in some fresh legs. Maybe help this offensive threat get forward. As Wes Sharpe has definitely carried a load of minutes over the course of their first 8 games.
Dolly crossing. Ball ricochets down. Muckett.
Just utter frustration by Dwayne Muckett. Not a lot of opportunities here in the second half. Well done by Dolly to get it in behind Sean Francis. Nice ball in as it makes its way out. Morgan Hackworth actually tried to play one back across. Taylor Pay in the way, and Muckett just leans back. That's what happens when you're down 2-0 in the 70th minute, and things just haven't necessarily been running your way over the past few matches.
That beard is hot at 83 degrees. Woo. This is finally decent weather for a Louisville home game. It has not been there this year.
He knew it was going to be warm, so he cut the sleeves off of the jean jacket. So
kept the beard.
That's right.
Sleeve monster got him, though. Devin Kerr, Mike Watts on hand. 69 minutes in the books. Louisville 2-0 lead. Second coming at the 61st minute. Scored in the 33rd. Rasmussen and Lucky M. Kosana. As it stands now, Louisville could rocket into 6th. This is big trouble. It's going to get away from Lute. That was nearly a total howler.
This happened last week on a ball played back against Ottawa, and it went over the end line. They were just chasing back and tried to play one through. Same thing here. Tosh thinks his goalkeeper's ready for it. It's got to be a bit closer than that. Just shows you their willingness to play out of the back. That one got away from them.
Lindley. Header saved. Lute. Follow. Hackworth. No. It's in, an own goal. That's a gorgeous goal for Memphis, but they didn't hit it themselves. Devastating for Louisville. And Memphis are right back in it. Their first goal in over 350 minutes.
Ben Lute cannot believe it. Abdou Jam trying to help on the defensive side of things. It was all hands on deck on the corner. Cam Lindley putting in another good ball, allowing one of the big guys to go up and get it. First one comes off. Great reactionary save by the goalkeeper, but as it pushes itself back out, Morgan Hackworth applying the pressure. How about Todd Pratzner atoning for some of his sins in the face of the forward, Abdou Jam, and just sprays it in the back of his own net.
Jam, the response won't come there. Gosh, man, Jam could have had a hat trick against against Ottawa last week. And we were talking about the little things that it'll take for him to take the next step. And he finally gets a goal, and it's in the wrong end. That is just it's ironic. I don't know if there's a literary device to explain what I just saw. Tim Mulqueen should not, and I would assume does not care.
He'll take it any way he can at this point in time. Again, I said after the second goal by Lou City in the 61st minute, still plenty of time to get back in the game. It doesn't matter if it's an own goal or not. You're still only down 1 with 18 and change to go.
As the momentum swung, Dolly tried to get a touch to that. Tosh Jam was through. Birch grabbed him. Was he the last man back? One would have to imagine he is. But the offside flag is up, and that's going to save a very difficult decision for Ismir Peknik.
Mark Birch cut right in behind Abdou Jam on this through ball. Backline exposed in transition once again. That seems to be the MO here in the second half. Smartly by Mark Birch. He's just going to run away from it, go get a water. You get another look. Rasmussen through. Tosh on the distribution. That is confusing to say the least on the far side, how he thought this was offside. You can only catch the tail end of the play, but Abdi Mohammed on the top part of your screen looked like he kept him on. Birch catches him in behind. And you're spot on, Mike. The referee gets bailed out here that he doesn't have to make a hard decision.
It looks like he sort of comes in from the side, and while he has some coverage coming from behind, I don't imagine that they'd send Birch off there, in one humble opinion, but I could see how the referee could make an alternate choice there. You're right, he made a beeline for the bench, didn't he?
I'm out of there. Are you kidding me? Any opportunity to get away from something that could have been even the tiniest bit of conspicuous to the referee's eye. I'm most assuredly running away from that. How about this? Luke Spencer back in after injury. One of the few that had to depart just 3-4 games into this 2019 campaign.
Well, if you're Abdou Jam, you're probably a bit disappointed. You don't get to atone for the gaffe that you do have. And he had two pretty decent looks getting upfield. It looked like he was totally re-energized. He took a bit of a knock there at the end, and Luke Spencer returns after a grade 1 hamstring pull 3 weeks ago.
Nice shit from Jam. Wasn't exactly the same thing we'd seen in the past 2 weeks versus the likes of Tampa Bay Rowdies and Ottawa Fury. However, he was asked to fulfill a bit different of a role, and that did allow Kasana, to explore things a bit further on this right side. Again, we talked about all the movement that this team employs. It just allows Lucky to drift in a bit more. Louisville weak on the left side with their positioning, and Abdou Jam held that role quite well.
Well, the question is, how does Paolo Del Piccolo, for instance, change things when he comes in? Sean Tosha, vastly different player. How does Luke Spencer change things from a much more mobile Abdou Jam? Rasmussen showing some mobility and some stick-to-itiveness. Spencer, is that off? Hackworth steps in. Goes right to Francis. Rasmussen. Williams. Peknik ducks under it. Jimenez. Now Karam out. Corner coming Louisville.
Spencer still gives you that target look. Though, like you said, not as much pace as Abdou Jam. Not the end of the world, though. They still have that in Lucky Kasana on the right side. And we talked about his ability to tuck in, yet still track back and help out Oscar Jimenez on the defensive side of things. Not too much is going to change. Just maybe not as much directivity and interchanging play in Luke Spencer.
Jimenez, Tosh, skips right off the crossbar, kissed it. Got out, there's a change coming. First, this effort by Tosh, didn't miss by much.
His role has been so interesting for John Hackworth, and being able to sit in that holding midfielder role. Good job getting up and putting one, at least an opportunity to get on goal, hits the crossbar and goes over. And this is obviously a tactical sub by Tim Mulqueen down the stretch. Najim not getting the nod in the starting 11. However, he is on the bench and he can bring his offensive duties to help out Cam Lindley. That's what Mulqueen talked to us about, the relationship those two have created. Najim coming in, leading this team in chances created, and now giving an opportunity to showcase it.
His first time off the bench this year. Rasmussen, game's opened up a bit here. McCabe, Francis cutting it along the grain. Hops over Graff, who's been on an island in this second half at times. Pay. Skip away from McCabe.
You track back, Mike, and take a look at the first part of your question with the likes of Del Piccolo. We asked John Hackworth that, what do you do when you come back? And he said, to be honest, it's a really rough problem to have because you work so hard for one style, then have to change to another, start becoming good in execution at it, and then when your main pieces start to come back in, are you just going to flip a switch and go back to what was working for you before? Only time will tell in that area, but Louisville City has shown us, both in the James O'Connor area as well as John Hackworth, that they're more than capable of giving you so many different looks and being able to execute as well.
That got up and hit Dolly near the throat at first glance. Not quite.
A bit lower.
Yep. Sort of grasping up there at the top of his shirt, but that was an entirely different problem. One I had spotted.
More than a wins.
Yeah, he's still hobbled by it. Well, 71st minute own goal by Amdou Jam has Memphis a goal down with 10 plus to go. USL Championship game of the week. Memphis's conversion rate hovering just over 7%. That is not good. And yet, you could argue, with all the one-goal games they've played, they would be in playoff position. They had just 3 goals go their way. 3 goals.
And to your point, Mike, Memphis at 7% coming into the match. Louisville was only at 9.
Right.
So not a lot of separation between those two teams, at least with regard to those statistics. And it just goes to show that Mulqueen's boys just looking for a bit of momentum here. That own goal could be the one to help push them over the top.
Ball curling to Williams. Jimenez making a cutting run. It's Williams off target. Levine started his last 70 games at UConn. The goalkeeper ready to kick this away. Williams had to go for that himself. Missed the target altogether.
Goes to show you the quality that he has on his bench. It's a guy who, not only 70 games, 31 shutouts. His goal against average, .78 in his collegiate career. So again, showing you that there's plenty of talent to be had in this league, and not just in the starting 11. Scott Levine showing us what he's made of. Unfortunately, a bit difficult for him tonight, but he has shown some glimpses. Love the save on him by Niall McCabe that, as you can see right now, has definitely kept his team in this game.
Levine actually was coached as a youth by Tim Mulqueen. Tim Mulqueen's, he doesn't have a coaching tree yet. Maybe that'll come with time, but he does have a pretty immense goalkeeping tree. Worked with the youth national team, and of course Tim Howard in his formative years in New Jersey. Francis did get the ball away here. And Kosana brings it down. Knocked wide. And that'll ultimately skip away from Jimenez. Goal kick.
Don't see that often, do we? Jimenez just made a blunder out of this opportunity. Does show you the composure Lou City has. Doesn't matter how many guys are in the box or lack thereof. Just a great job keeping this thing alive. Good challenge in the corner from Josh Morton. Just slowly makes its way around. Nice touch, nice touch. Jimenez on the overlapping run, whiffs it, but a good job to keep the play alive.
Lindley's seen a lot of the ball tonight. That's surely part of the game plan. Najum from Muckett. And Kosana drops in to defend. Spencer comes to the ball.
Just drifting out of the picture, some frustration by Cam Lindley as he has made his run on the far side of the pitch, expecting the ball back when he drifted out. Threw his hands down in disgust when he didn't get it. And again, some more foreign language being employed by another manager, this time Tim Mulqueen. Unsurprising that both gentlemen, Hackworth and Mulqueen, versed in many a language, obviously to communicate with the referee. Should have come to me. I could tell him all that. I can speak four languages.
You're fluent in that.
It's
French you struggle with. You're fluent in that. Turned over, M. Kosana looking for Spencer, comes down. Spencer tried to spin over it and ultimately knocked it out of play.
Rasmussen had an excellent opportunity for his second goal of the night. Just sitting very patiently at the top of the 18. Bad ball coming out. After singing Scott Levine's praises, unnecessarily turns it over in transition. Should have cut this one back. Tries to go near post to Luke Spencer and then never really matriculates into anything.
The thing is, you want Levine and Loon, and you go down the list of goalkeepers in the modern game to play with the ball at their feet because it changes everything. And Birch shown a yellow card. So too is Lucky M. Kosana. And the thousands of fans, the 7,816 in attendance right now, are trying to speak referee.
I don't agree with this. I don't agree with the card to Birch. Here's why. Guy's standing over me. That's why. Okay.
Oh.
Thought he gave him the card for hitting the ball at him. That's what it sounded like, and it's a shout. He didn't do anything. Thought Mark Birch was given a yellow because of hitting the ball at him, but it was because of the shove. You can't get away with that one. Growing up, we were always just told to ping it at the guy. Again, fluent in the language of head referees.
For M. Kosana, it's his second yellow of the year. For Birch, it's his second yellow. So at some point, they're going to look back at that moment and go, so that's why I'm suspended. If rate is of any value here.
You never know. They could grab some good behavior, have one taken away.
They could. Birch. Caught by Lunt. All 6'7" of him. 6'6", depends where you look.
Just a great job by the goalkeeper to start to kill off the game as well. To go up and catch the ball at its apex and not allow anybody else to come near him. Doesn't even matter how tall he is, has the extension of the arms too.
Pretty impressive background too, coming out of Hertha, Berlin, over in Germany. I'd imagine in most countries, people start with saying he played at Hertha Berlin before they say played at Akron, but
still nice to have on the resume.
yeah.
Where'd you play? Hertha Berlin, Akron. Sorry, Akron. The people there are going, that's not how you say it.
As an Ohioan, I'm personally offended.
Yeah, he's got an accent.
Yeah, okay.
You hope.
Yeah. Played over in Germany for a while. I think you've probably, not that I want you to start speaking.
I can turn it on.
I prefer you not.
I know.
Yeah.
It's not as good as my Tommy Smith, but it's still pretty good.
Dolly! It's over the crossbar. I'll have to save that Tommy Smith for another time. I know Gary Bailey, who's calling the game on TV in Louisville tonight, is looking forward to hearing it.
It sets it up so appropriately right now, but we won't do. We'll do everybody a favor and save it for another time when the mics are off and I'm in a padded room by myself.
Change coming for Louisville. That's Alexi Sawahi. Let's talk for a moment about the center back shuffle that went on. Tim Mulqueen saying, can we move this along a bit? Mkosana will come off. He scored what right now will be the game-winning goal if all stands. 61st minute. Jam getting it started.
Beautifully done, and it all goes back to his ability to acquire the real estate that Abdou Jam set out forth on that run down into the channel on the left. Again, a bad touch by Birch, but still had a lot of work to do. Lucky Kasana trusted his striking partner up top, waited his time, put it on a platter for him. Excellent finish.
Anywho, Sawahi checks in, so it should be what ultimately should be about a three-back look with Tosh over the top of them is one way you could look at it. You have three center backs in the game. With Tosh, you could argue you really have four center backs in the game. But Sawahi's sort of the odd man out right now. Last year as a rookie, thrown into the deep end, ultimately becomes a starter with Paco Craig. Great relationship between the two. And then about 5 games in, too many goals going through. First, Craig gets benched. He returns. Pay tries it. Whoa, effort by Jimenez. Trying to catch Levine off his line. Misses. Ultimately, Pay and Craig right now have the jerseys, and they don't look like they're giving them up. So Alexi relegated to moments like this.
They've created a nice partnership back there, and what you're going to see in the remaining 3 minutes or so, probably closer to 5 with added time, to be honest. They'll just sit in a traditional 3-back where instead of Tosh having to tuck back in from midfield, Lexi will just acquire that space on his own. Tosh will sit in front of him. They'll just congest the middle of the field, try and make it that much more difficult for 901 FC to get the equalizer. Now McCabe has pushed himself a bit further out on the left side to try and close things down. They have had a tiny bit of success, Memphis 901 FC, the likes of Rashawn Dolly since he's come on.
Perch getting booed, Louisville locals. Najam, the Afghan men's national teamer. Threw a couple feet at that. Couldn't separate Pay from the ball. Dolly striding into this. Was looking for Graff. Away from Muckett. Leveled off to McCabe. Williams, only Birch is back, and if Williams had hit that first time, maybe he could have unleashed Spencer. Instead, McCabe. 4 minutes added time. McCabe skipping around in the corner. One more goal could seemingly put an end to this one. Francis.
Well done. What a great job just to keep it and try and beat the clock here. And you're right, he could have knocked it in and they might have had half a chance at best. But a good job to just cycle things back out, play a little two-man game, triangular at that, and kill off another 2 minutes of this clock almost once it gets close to 91. Just so composed in so many different situations for this Lou City squad.
Spencer will turn around and take it back to the corner. And he's a bit disappointed. He thought he was going to be able to win a corner out of that. Well, Louisville's been to 4 consecutive Eastern Conference finals. They have a perfect record at home at Slugger Field in the playoffs. Tonight, they set a regular season midweek attendance record, 7,816. Dolly and Memphis trying to damper the mood with a late equalizer. Louisville's got their final sub waiting to return, George Davis. That service will run all the way out. Here comes Davis. He and Spencer both picked up hamstring injuries that were visually practically identical. From a medical terminology perspective, was literally identical. 2 grade 1 hamstring strains in the same game, about 30 minutes apart. Davis and Spencer both return about 30 minutes apart.
Nice to see them step back in and at least get an opportunity to present themselves to Louisville faithful. Rasmussen having another excellent impact on his team's performance. He gets the goal. Just the second time in 2019, but starting to look very similar to years of past as his glory days have come back into the limelight here for Louisville in 2019.
Just like that, Louisville has taken off all 3 goal scorers in this game. Davis. Davis, it's behind Spencer off the skip, and here comes Memphis. 90+ seconds here to try and salvage a point on the road. Graff couldn't find Hackworth. McCabe.
Another good job by Lou City just holding the ball. Davis could have easily tried to go with pace, but he and Niall wise beyond their years. You know, Niall McCabe, 28 years old, and George Davis, 31. However, they have such a vast amount of experience that extends much further than what you see on the sheets of paper.
It's a Memphis team that literally everybody believes is better than their record. It looks like they are going to be hard luck losers again unless they can traverse the length of the field, score an equalizer here at the death. Full time, the back-to-back champions show their mettle and their teeth. A 2-1 win over Memphis, and they're back in the playoff position at the season quarter pole.
Lovely performance by the home squad. Still finding that true rhythm Hackworth has been looking for, and not for a unfortunate own goal by Abdou Jam in the 71st minute, they would have been able to keep a clean sheet. But just another step in one of these building blocks. With all of the injuries, they're still finding ways to get it done. And if you're 901 FC, frustration for sure. It's another 1-goal game, but to be fair, they were outplayed tonight. Just still trying to find a way to get things going in the final third.
We were asking John Hackworth who paid for dinner last night. He said he was going to make Morgan pay. Now we're going to see who pays later. 2-1 Louisville. Highlight stats coming up after this. Well, it's another home win for Louisville City. They've gone back-to-back there, the back-to-back champions. 2-1 win over Memphis, and the Hackworth Derby #1 is over. Father and son embrace. Peace has been made among the Hackworth family as Morgan falls in this first effort against his dad. 2-1. Devin Kerr, Mike Watts. Let's take a look at full-time highlights as Lucky M. Kosana and Magnus Rasmussen, the goal scorers for Louisville. For Memphis, they get an own goal from Abdu Jam. We begin in the first half of the 9th minute, Dev.
This was just inside 10 minutes now. McCabe trying to have a go from distance. We talked about it before, that it's going to take something beyond brilliant to beat Scott Levine from that far out. He kind of had a frustrating night on the offensive side of things, Niall McCabe. Rasmussen did not, though. He had a great shift. Loved his ability to just continuously find ways to get involved in the run of play, not just in the middle of the field, but out wide on the right. He would actually make his way in the 27th minute. It's a good ball in. Second chances seem to be the theme for tonight. This one was a header sprayed back over by Taylor Pay. Just 6 minutes later, in the 33rd minute, Rasmussen would be the benefactor of a bounce that comes off Todd Pratzner, and you have to feel bad for the center back. As this comes in, and see, there it is, right off his head. Rasmussen tries to flick it on. It comes off Pratzner's head, sits very nicely for Rasmussen. He just turns, puts it on his left foot, finds that bottom corner. They were out and running. They had a great run. Memphis tried to really get things going towards the end of the first half. They would actually get a nice set-piece opportunity. Great ball in by Cam Lindley. And again, second, third opportunities. Good ball in, but the trailing run by Todd Pratzner couldn't pick it up. Love what's done by Wes Sharpie. Center back doesn't see it. They'd go into halftime, knot it up 1-0. But again, set pieces. Now McCabe, they need to find a way to make sure they're all on the same page. You see that they've obviously practiced it, but the execution just lacking. This man, just brilliant. Great transition coming out of the back. Pratzner doesn't get a touch on it. This look is still there, and the run by M. Kasana on the tail end of this. How about the understanding by Abdu Jam just to recognize that he knows his teammate's going to be there. He waits, picks his head up last minute. Levine can't catch the runner. Abdi Mohammed doesn't track him either. 2-0.
That's bread and butter stuff for M. Kosani, who scored in 2 games running. The game winner in 2 games running against Ottawa and now. And then I guaranteed a goal for Abdu Jam. I guaranteed it. It was in the wrong net.
Yes, that's putting it politely. Josh Morton actually gets the header here. He was the substitute for Wes Sharpie. And then the second one back in. Todd Pratzner actually got in the way of it for Abdu Jam. Again, he's just trying to help out. Clear it off the line, pushes it past his goalkeeper. We talked about the balance by Louisville and what they needed to do as it was overloaded on the right side. Second half, equal possession, 35 on the right and left wings. Did a good job balancing things out. Memphis 901 just couldn't find a way to get it done. They actually overloaded on the left side, and there was really no fluidity building out of the back into the middle, translating into the final third. Tim Mulqueen made a couple substitutions, but they just weren't able to find anything getting going in the final third.
Devin, you see the full-time stats. Chance for your final thoughts on this one. Memphis now 4 straight losses, 6 winless. Louisville, a couple wins back-to-back. It looks like teams headed in very divergent directions.
Memphis need to find a way to get back on track because they have had some solid performances. This is probably the least offensive production I've seen them so far. Louisville, on the other hand, though they get the win, and I understand it was 2-1, they need to find a way to tidy things up in the final third. Just around the corner, they're going to have to take on the likes of St. Louis, Bethlehem Steel, and Charleston Battery. You better believe those teams will take advantage of their opportunities.
So Louisville score all 3 goals tonight, an own goal and a couple in the Memphis net. A 2-1 win for Louisville as they continue what has been an impressive turnaround in their twice championship season. For producer Abe Aponte, director Gage Tillotson, Jose Bueso, our entire Vista World Link team, and Devin Kerr alongside Mike Watts saying thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Nashville, Tampa on ESPN2. Until then, so long and good night.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League Championship cannot be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the expressed written consent of the United Soccer League Championship.